Hi, so we are going to be taking a look at my garden. I was going to start doing once a month videos of my garden to see the growth of not only the summer garden and the fall garden, but also to see the growth of the perennial trees and plants and bushes. So let's take a look. So here we have a bay leaf tree. Kind of small, got lots of branches, and then we have berries. These are all the Logan berries and some blueberries, and in the back you can see a giant tomato. I also snuck in some squash and some tomatoes in here, and this is my goji berry plant that needs to be pruned, and then we have, I think that's boysenberry, it needs to be staked. And then in this first bed, we have some cucumber here, but I don't know, it's going to be too hot and they might just end up being really bitter. Some garlic, elephant garlic, tomatillos, beans, arugula that I'm seed saving. So when they dry out, I'll get the seeds. Some beans that are looking kind of funky. I'm not sure why they look like that, but we are going to wait and see what happens. A couple tomatoes. These are volunteer tomatoes, those two there, as is this little guy. Okay. And then bigger tomatoes. And over here, some lima beans are planted, which only one has come up, so I replanted them. And then a whole bunch of lovely tomatoes. And then this one, this cool thing is a ground cherry, and that one, it says marjoram, but on the other side it says ground cherry. Going to be seed saving the Celtis, which is why it's still there, not looking so great. Some more cucumbers. These are also pickling cucumbers. Garlic. These are white pickling cucumbers. And more tomatoes. So that's a little nasturtium and a honeysuckle that I just bought. And then we have another tomato plant that's a volunteer. So in the herbs, this is the mint. It's got kind of overgrown and mixed. It's got chocolate mint, sweet mint, peppermint, spearmint, chive and thyme in this one. I'm growing some stevia and holy basil. It also has a new golden sage right here. A little pretty one. Then over here we have sage and two kinds of oregano, and I'm growing Chinese chive down here. Very slow growing. And this is a dog. Okay, in this bed we have asparagus and some beans growing, some leftover purslane from last year that loves to just keep coming back. Seed saving for the arache, or arache, however you want to say it. That's the purple one. Some tomatoes. This is a volunteer. We are thinking it's sunflower. This is supposed to be my jalapeno garden, but not many grew, but I'm just gonna leave it how it is. So we got several jalapenos here, and then we got some more cucumbers growing. This giant thing is salsify, and it's going to, in fall, supposedly dry over, and then I can harvest the roots. So it got really big, infested with aphids, kind of took over. I wasn't expecting it to get that big. St. John's wort, hydrangea that I just planted that's not loving the heat. Big giant grape guy here. Some seeded flowers that I started in this area. And then we got basil, following basil all the way. I think I ended up with 11 types of basil. Second grapevine here. And in the middle is a hop. So that's going to end up looking kind of cool. In here we got some peanuts. And then this is my arch trellis. And it has gourds and squash in it. So this is the Small Wonder spaghetti squash, and it's doing really well. Lots of big old squashes on there. And then the gourds are a lot smaller, taking a while. And then on the other side, the gourds as well, still taking quite a bit. And then here's, these are going to be baby watermelons. This is called honey nut. It's like a little mini butternut, but it needs to be tied up, which is kind of obnoxious. And then some more gourds. This is loofah. So loofah's finally taken off. And then we have down here, this little guy is the cucamelon. So I'm gonna hopefully get some cucamelons this year. Okay, this is my screen door with my green stock planters. So this one has about 13 strawberry plants. Got a runner started here. And then I also planted one asparagus in each. And in this other cups, I planted seeds. So they're very slow going and a lot did not germinate. This is the other green stock planter I got a lot later. So I'm starting, actually I planted some pepper seeds. And right now they should all be up, but I only have about 4. Only 4 have grown. So I bought an overwintering thing, so I might actually just keep them through next year too to get a head start on peppers, because I do not have good luck with peppers. Alright, so here's another herb barrel, but I also added some, I want to say like honeydew or cantaloupe or something. Heart of gold melon. So there's a few of those. My tarragon keeps getting pruned. And then this is my second mint. So these are the mints like orange mint, apple mint, lemon mint, Korean mint. These are like the unique mints. This is just a really pretty variegated mint. So this one's actually normal. Okay. And then in my trellis beds, got some big giant onions. I can't wait to see how big these are. I have to wait for them to you know, dry out and fall over, but they're really cool. Okay, sunflower bed here to here to make like this little secret hideaway. It did not work. We'll think of a new plan for next year. So this is another perennial bed that I have. So again, with perennial beds, it's not an instant 1 year thing. So this is year 1, and I ended up planting a lot of squash. But there's a lot of spring bulbs in there, and then next year I'll plant all of the seeds, and then hopefully they'll just reseed, and eventually it'll be like an overgrown country cottage garden. So my newest hydrangea here is also not loving the heat, but hopefully he'll do a little bit better. Oh, you can see this cute little squash growing right there. This was Scarlett's bed, but I kind of took over because she's not a big vegetable eater. So this was again supposed to be peppers, but they're not doing well. I got watermelon and another type of melon here, tomato, and then a bed of chard. This bed of chard also was planted with eggplant twice and peppers once. Did not grow. So lots of fun squash here, some pretty flowers, plum tree, fig tree. That's the fig right there. This is the Shiro plum. Plumeria pot has a little watermelon, 2 little watermelons, and 1 little pepper. The third watermelon did not make it. This side, the watermelon is doing much better. And then 1 pepper got beheaded, and then there's 1 more right in there. So in here, besides the deck, I planted some seeds, but it doesn't get enough water, so the flower seeds are looking kind of blah. But again, eventually they'll get you know, bigger and bushier, and I'll adjust the watering and it'll look good in a few years. Okay, so back here, this is Saffron's poop area that I kind of took over. So we have a couple melons over in the back corner with the house plant that I just transplanted in March. So it's actually surviving, but it'll take probably next spring before it looks good. 2 elderberry bushes. And then I planted watermelon, and the poppy seeds that Scarlett and I just threw everywhere tended to grow where I planted plants, because that's where the sprinklers are. So they're kind of competing for that, but it looks cool in my opinion. And then here we have some kind of pumpkin or watermelon or squash, not watermelon, pumpkin or squash. Again, same with the poppies. This thing is a giant New Zealand spinach that I tasted it and it's nasty in my opinion. I'm going to try it one more time, but we got a little animal who likes to make a nest out of it in the nighttime, so that's fun. Chard, this is the leftover greens from my mesclun mix. Leftover strawberry lettuce that's kind of starting to go to seed, which is cool. That's a pumpkin. My violas, my Johnny Jump Up violas, looking so good. I already picked a ton of flowers from it and made a jar of jelly. Some squash, some more lettuce, Scarlett's Fairy Garden. My sad little lemon tree, it is alive, but it's taken a while to adjust. This is the avocado and the lime. And then before we go over there, I gotta show you my saddest little tree of all, this little guy. This is supposed to be my clementine, so it has not liked this spot at all. So I will have to replant that probably, but I'm gonna leave it and see what happens. So here we have Home Depot buckets because they're orange and they go. And these are filled with tomatoes. Lots of different kinds of tomatoes. So got some really cool like flower looks here. Some are bigger than others. This guy scares me because he always looks really sad, but I think that's just the way he looks. And then we got some smaller ones planted the same time. That one's actually grown a lot kind of quickly, but some take a longer to start and some just don't do well. Then this is one that I didn't know what it was, and then it finally bloomed and it's this beautiful white flower, so I want to keep that. This is another watermelon encased with the beautiful California poppies. And then this is my dwarf nectarine, and I put different types of pumpkins and gourds around it. Like this is a Casper pumpkin, so it'll eventually be big and white. And then this is my dirt pile. Extra dirt. They called it fill dirt because it was not very good of full of nutrients or anything, but I figured I would give it a try since it was there. And you can see I got some crazy growth. So I planted all of my summer squash back here and it didn't grow, and which is why I planted it again in the regular garden, and then this grew and then that grew. So I have a ton of squash. And then there's even one volunteer tomato right there. Oh, there's a squash down there. I'll have to pick that sometime. So I'm going to be donating a lot of food to the local food bank. Okay, now time for trees. So you saw my nectarine, you saw my citrus, my avocado, my plum, my fig. This is an apricot. It's got one little apricot. I just planted it a few months ago. And then it's got some winter squash on the bottom. This is a cherry tree. This is 4 different types of cherries. So there's 4 branches and 4 cherries. So there's Bing, Van, Rainier, and Lapins. And again at the bottom there is some squash. And then the last tree I have here is a persimmon and some squash at the bottom. And you can see this is summer squash. Spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash. Same as what is growing on the trellis. So I believe that is it. So one last little look around the garden as a whole. Okay, I'll see you next month.